Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 135 of the Let's Play World. We're going to start off today by looking at some of the redstone I did on the farm and a couple of corrections I made. We're going to get some work done here on the tower, and we're going to finish up the episode taking a look at a couple of viewer suggestions. First thing I want to show you is this bug that I seem to have found or am experiencing. So notice if I point my mouse in between these two lanterns, and then I go into my inventory, I move my mouse around, and then I exit, I'm in the same place. But watch what happens if I go into inventory and I move my mouse and then exit inventory. Where am I now? I spun all the way around. I'll do it again. So if I point my mouse here and I go into inventory, and while I'm moving my mouse, I exit, I spin like all the way around. It's really frustrating if you like get into your inventory and then you're moving things around and stuff, and you exit and you're like, which direction am I facing? So if I was in a situation where I was fighting or in a pinch, that could be really problematic. I did report the bug, but we'll see what happens. I also want to show you a couple things with our bamboo farm that we were working on. One is on this side of the tracks, and the other one is on that side of the tracks. So over here, I realized I made a really kind of rookie mistake with my unloading system. I made a video about unloaders, and I get lots of questions about why they don't work sometimes. And it usually is because you have your hoppers stacked on top of each other. I want to hop into a creative world for a minute because I realized I was doing a bad job of explaining what was going on, and I want to kind of show you kind of once and for all what's going on with these unloader systems. So this is a really simple unloader here. I have a minecart that's full of items, and it's going to come along here. And this is a powered rail. So when the minecart hits the powered rail, it will turn around and go the other way. But what's going to happen here is when this minecart gets here, there is a hopper underneath, and the items are going to want to drain in there. When that happens, this comparator is watching this hopper. And so when there are items in there, the comparator will light up and push power into this block. Now, right now, this torch is sending power along this way to this rail. So that's why that rail is powered. The torch is powering this block, the repeater pushes it over here, and finally to the rail. So when the comparator powers this block and turns the torch off, that'll kill all of this and unpower this rail. So the minecart will come along, items will start to flow, the rail will turn off, and it'll just sit there until all of the items are drained out of it. Now, what I bet is going to happen is it's not going to stop. And I was right. You saw it went down there and it bounced back. A couple of items probably drained out. Yeah, 2 items. But it didn't stop. And the reason is because these hoppers are stacked. So as soon as the minecart got here and the items started flowing into this hopper, they quickly went down into this hopper, and the comparator doesn't have enough time to register that. I think that is because when you have hoppers like this, if you put an item here, items always want to go down before they will go across. So if I was to put something in this hopper, even though this is pointing in this direction, it would flow down. And so I think that's what's happening here is when an item ends up here, it knows, oh, there's a hopper here, I'm just going to go. But when you stagger your hoppers, then it has to think for a second. Okay, so here we have exactly the same thing. Minecart's going to come along, but you can see there's no hopper directly under this hopper. When an item ends up in here, it has to then go over. And now when I push this button, it stops. So because this hopper is facing sideways and there's no hopper below it, the items sit here for just a split second longer, and it allows the comparator to register that. So what I had done back at the base is I stacked my hoppers. And so we had to eliminate that or else the minecart would never stop. And while we're on the topic of redstone, last episode I built a system to collect the bamboo. And what I did is I put redstone down, and then I put some pistons like so. And what I had said during the episode was I made a mistake and I put my redstone a little bit too low. Now what I meant by that is if I put a button here and push it, nothing happens. And you can see the redstone is not pointed into any of these pistons. If there was only one piston, you can see it actually connects, and that would work. But when you start putting a line of redstone, it doesn't actually connect to any of the pistons. And so what I did is I just moved it up one block like this, put the redstone up here, and now the redstone is powering these blocks that are touching the pistons, and they'll all go. Okay, now that we've got that all explained, other thing I was going to show you is over here in our farm, our minecart wasn't taking off as reliably as I wanted, and I realized because the daylight sensor is so far indoors that this power was never really getting much above 5. And so instead of having a torch here, I put an item frame that's pointing down here, and it's creating a signal of 5. And so now when the sun is up kind of midday, this guy will go back and forth a couple of times. We can take Bamboo Farm off the wall of tasks. So now that we got all of that out of the way, I want to talk about our base. And you can see we've made a ton of progress, but it's real ugly looking. We've got a lot of the interiors, but not a lot of the exterior happening yet. And I want to do a little bit of work on that today. Down here towards the bottom of the base, we have this kind of unfinished staircase here. And this is where I kind of want to start today, is installing this staircase. And then we'll get down here to this kind of bottom room that meets up with the Blackstone Tower and start adding an exterior down here. As far as materials, we're going to use some deep slate, we're going to use some Blackstone. And I have some ideas for the space down there, but we'll kind of see how it goes as we get there. As we come down the stairs, there's a landing every so often, and I'm going to continue putting a light in the center of each of the landings. And I think I want this space in the center here to be open. We're going to end up with kind of like a room or a space down here. I'm not sure exactly how I want to mix up the deep slate and the Blackstone yet, so I'm just going to start, and then we'll kind of massage it as we go down and kind of figure that out. And another thing I was thinking about is every time we have a landing, there's kind of like a, 3 wide space here. We could potentially poke out just a little bit and create a little room for an armor stand or a trophy or something like that. That would be kind of a neat accent. And from the outside, I think it would look kind of cool as well. Down here at the bottom, I'm not sure exactly what shape this is going to be. I've got this sort of blocked out, but I do want it to kind of transition from the tower up. And again, I want it to match up with this, but I want to leave the center open. So we're just going to kind of try some stuff out, and we'll just see how it goes as we go along. So I think at the bottom of the stairs, this level here, I want this to be a Blackstone floor. Just makes sense that, we're kind of sitting on top of this column, and so it feels like the floor would be made of Blackstone. Okay, I'm not sure exactly how this is going to go with the stairs here, but we've got a little bit of a floor now, which is a start, and we definitely need to blend this in a little bit because it's a pretty stark transition. Okay, I've been thinking about it a little bit. Imagine this. Come down the stairs, and you're going to have a little bit of an alcove here, a little bit of an alcove here with maybe, like I said, a armor stand or something like that. And we'll walk down this way, and you'll be able to see down into this room. Maybe a little alcove here, a little alcove here, and then we'll come down to this room, and this is going to be a library. And so we'll be able to kind of look up and see the staircase here, and there'll be bookshelves along all of these walls. And maybe we'll be able to cram an enchanting table in here as well. I'm not going to put any bookshelves in until 1.20 comes out, because I do want to utilize the new chiseled bookshelves so we can actually store some books in here. I think that would be very cool. So I'll probably just use like a placeholder block for now so we can kind of get the shape of the room sketched out. I'm going to start adding in the deep slate outer layer of our base, and I'm just going to start real simple, and we'll probably have to go back over it and change some blocks out and things as we sort of settle on a design. But I just, again, want to get some blocks in here so we can see the shape of it and at least get it started. What are these guys doing over here? I think I'm just going to use netherrack for now to kind of hold the space for the bookshelves. And I think what we'll do is sort of this kind of pattern where we'll have 2 and then something to break it up, 3 bookshelves, something to break it up, 2 bookshelves, something to break it up. And these bookshelves will continue up the wall. I think it'll be real cool looking. So I'm feeling pretty good about this design here. We'll have bookshelves where the netherrack exists right now. We'll have them broken up by some black stone columns. There'll be a little bit of a decorative deep slate element. Still need to do some of, the texturing and things like that. I might have some of the deep slate bleed into the floor a little bit. And I think what I'm going to do next is this wall and that wall, just bring them all the way up to the ceiling, because I think that'll be pretty straightforward. And then these 2 walls here and here are going to be a little bit different just because they're going to interact with the staircase. Okay, it's starting to look like a room now. So our staircase is going to come down like this, and we'll have little bookshelf, big bookshelves, big bookshelves, big bookshelves, and I think right under the stairs, this is where we'll put an enchanting table. Right now, this is kind of open back here, but I think what I'm going to do is just bring the wall over so that it's kind of flush with the stairs, and that way everything will kind of feel nice and enclosed and deliberate. Starting to look a little bit kind of claustrophobic. I'm not sure how the ceiling's going to work yet because we've got our smelter here. It's going to be pretty interesting though once we start getting the materials in there. And then, like I was saying earlier, we'll probably have a little alcove here, alcove here, and alcove here. And I think from the outside, when you look back at the base, that'll add a lot of interest. These little kind of knobs and nodules poking out here and there. I'm going to keep working on this a little bit, might texture up a few blocks, see if I can connect all of these walls, maybe even figure out a ceiling, and then we should have a finished room. Okay, a bit more progress here. A little bit tricky, but I think it's all going to work out. So I got some of the ceiling in here, and I was noticing as I was doing that, this is going to, line up here with the smelter. And here we want to kind of enclose this. So this will be kind of like a hallway, and then it will open up here so we can see down in the room. And so that actually works out really well. We can bring the ceiling across here, and then it'll just open up right here. And then I started adding in like where those little alcoves will be. Not sure exactly how I'm going to enclose them. I need to kind of fly around a little bit and take a look at that, but starting to look pretty cool. All right, time for the big reveal. As you can see here, I've expanded the black stone, so it looks like the column runs the whole way through the center of the build. Still need to do a ceiling here. We walk down and we're going to have these alcoves here. This wall will get built up a little bit more, and we'll have alcoves down there. And as you see, we make this little turn, and we get to see down into that space a little bit. Got the black stone running through the center here. And there is our library. Obviously, we don't have the bookshelves in here, and I don't have any permanent lighting. We'll probably do some lanterns on these black stone columns here. As we walk down and we kind of turn back, see the staircase climb up. And then over here is where we're going to have an enchanting table. And there'll be bookshelves all the way around in this little alcove here. And I think it looks really, really cool. The torches are temporary, just so you can see, because it gets really dark in this space. But I really, really like it. And I think it's going to be really cool once we get some of the bookshelves and the enchanting table in here. Give you a little bit of a preview of what it looks like from afar. As I was building it up, I was sort of adding a little bit of a bracing on the outside. You'll see kind of what I mean. See how those smooth, deep slate blocks kind of crawl up the side there? And then these alcoves, as you can see, are going to poke out a little bit, and I think that'll look really interesting once they get all finished. Yeah, that looks really awesome. Imagine that kind of climbing up and around the entire base. Yeah, that looks really, really cool. Very, very happy with that. Some of this where the smelter pokes out and all that, I think is going to be a little bit tricky to kind of match up, but I'll just keep working at it and we'll see what we come up with. I want to round up today with a couple of viewer suggestions. So one thing that was recommended was that I use a darker material for the rails over here. So we were using these smooth stone blocks because I wanted it to look really kind of plain and industrial. And what I've done is down here, I've replaced them with some deep slate blocks. And I also used walls instead of blocks to make it a little bit skinnier. We've got a little bit of a foot down here, and then it kind of crawls up. I think it looks pretty good. I got another suggestion to use some colored terracotta blocks. So we have an orange accent here. So I use some orange terracotta here in the rail line wherever there's power. And it sort of gives it a little bit of character and kind of shows which line is connected to, which farm. Let me just kind of pop off here and fly over here and then back, and I'll kind of show you. Yeah, that looks better than the blocks for sure. Let me know what you think about the glazed terracotta. It's, pretty bright, little garish, but not bad, like it matches the farm pretty well. And if all of the farms had that, that might be kind of a cool thing. And to wrap up today, I've got a couple more additions for our wall of tasks. One suggestion was a potion brewer, and that came from Sasuke Devil, who also suggested the Nether Monument. They wanted me to build it in the shape of a potion brewing stand. I think that's a little too tall of an order. I just don't think that would fit around here, but I do think a potion brewing area would be a cool thing. Also got another suggestion for an amusement park, and that one came from Auntie Nick. I did build an amusement park when I was playing on the Mindful SMP, and it had some games, and it had some rides, and it had a roller coaster, and it also had like an admission system. So, people would buy tokens, and then they would play the games, and they could win more tokens, and it was a really, really cool build. So it would be awesome to do something like that here in our Let's Play world as well. But one thing at a time. We've got plenty going on right now, and I think between episodes, I'm going to work a little bit more on the exterior of the base, and maybe next episode, we'll tackle another farm. And I think that's where I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you had fun. Please like and subscribe if you want to follow along on the adventure, and I hope to see y'all in the next one. Bye-bye.